Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Gold Mythic Easter Brutus, who is going to be coming to the game as an Ultra Token character. Now visually we have had a Brutus even in the Mythic era. We did have one as a Mythic Trial, but we haven't had one that's kind of like accessible. The Mythic Trial is not easy to come by, and visually looks kind of cool, not too Easter visuals, but it isn't, you know, wouldn't think too crazy. Massive bunny ears on a bear wouldn't really go down too well, I guess, but has got some kind of like visualization. I think there's like maybe like bits and pieces, but it's just got this big jacket which looks like someone can sit on the top of the bear, which I guess makes sense. On the left hand side we can see the art in a bit more detail. We have Davey and Brutus as I showed in my teaser art on a video just about a week ago. But on the right hand side, this was not in the teaser, you can see the Scotsman is in the background. Could we be seeing another Scotsman character coming? We know there's another Davey coming, but could we see another Scotsman come? We'll have to wait and see there. We'll check out the stats. At Limit Break 3, level 1,440, he has got 13,166 attack, 36,865 defense, 37,743 HP. It's going to be a strong character. Going to be a tank role, Gold Mythic of course, and is going to be joining the Rebels Allegiance. Now going straight on to the Adrenaline Rush, it is called Bear Hug. It is a 55 AP cost rush. Deal 25% of this fighter's max HP as damage to an enemy. When on the defense team, it's plus 25% damage and affects a line of enemies instead. All teammates get 100% defense for 2 turns. This fighter gets camouflage for the rest of combat. So obviously 3 sections to this. The first part doing damage based on the character's HP. This is mainly a defense team character, so 95% of the time or more this character is going to be on a defense team. So it should be 50% of this character's max HP as damage to an enemy. And that is flat damage, bypasses defense rating. It doesn't bypass bonus HP, but you can probably get Easter Brutus HP up to 100k plus without too much of a problem, as you can with most defense team characters. So you're probably looking at 50,000 damage or higher when used on a defense team. And most attack team characters, especially damage dealers, have between like 21 and 24k HP. So even at max bonus HP, if Brutus has 100k, he's one-shotting anybody pretty much. And then it can hit a line as well on that, you know, when it's on a defense team. So it's going to be potentially 2 characters getting taken out when the Adrenaline Rush goes off. All teammates get 100% defense for 2 turns is a big buff. There can obviously be weapons out there that do the same thing, but the person holding the weapon isn't going to get that buff on an all-strong team. But if you use Brutus on a non-all strong team and like want to mix and match some traits, you're not going to be able to get that massive buff. So this is going to potentially pick up the buff if you are using a weapon with like 2 characters, like 2 alert characters with alert defenses. The improved version, you'll be able to give everyone 40% defense. But when Easter Brutus goes off, everyone gets 100% defense, meaning people obviously take less damage. Now this fighter getting camouflage for the rest of combat is just a nice little bonus in terms of not being able to take any AoE damage or any waste not damage, you know, something like that. Basically, unless you target Brutus, you will not do any damage to him unless you steal this buff away. He can obviously reapply this to himself, but if you don't steal it away, it's always going to be on Brutus. Okay, so here we are on an attack team, and we have got the Adrenaline Rush up of Brutus, as you can see. And you can also see the HP he has in this team with no HP-based defense leader. It's obviously Negan with attack rating. And it's just the base weapon of Brutus that's giving him the HP, no mods. I remember when characters could get to 55k HP when Mythics first came out, and it was really amazing. Now they've already started at 55k HP without actually giving them a leader or an upgraded weapon or mods. It's crazy. Now, this is only going to deal 25% of that 54k, so around about 13,500. Whereas normally it would be 50%, which would be about 27,000. So obviously it's not going to do much against any of these characters because they have more than 13k HP. But this is just to give you an idea of how it works, and you can see the damage numbers that it's going to do based on the HP that Brutus has. So 54k on attack would mean 25% of it, which would be around 13,682. Whereas on defense team, he'd do half of that, his HP, and it'll be 27,000 in this case. There's a HP leader, HP mods, HP boosted weapon. Like I said, I think 80 to 100k should not be a problem. So you're looking at 40 to 50,000 damage to a line of enemies instead. Now, as you can see, the entire team has got 100% defense buff, except for Wayland, because Wayland has another buff that supersedes it. And of course, Easter Brutus had camouflage as well, that just stops the AoE damage like I said. So if we look at the upgrades, you can see at grade 2 it gets plus 50% defense. So originally it's going to be a 50% defense buff for 2 turns, and it's going to get boosted up to 100% defense for 2 turns. At grade 4 it gets an upgrade where this fighter gets camouflage for the rest of combat. At limit break 1, the AP cost gets reduced down to 55 AP. So originally it will be around 66. I think you probably would want to get to 55 on a defense team to get the good rotation to get this rush going off as early as possible. Then at limit break 3, it gets another upgrade when then the defense team plus 25% damage and affect a line of enemies instead. So it goes from 25% damage to a single target up to 50% damage to a line of enemies instead, which is going to be obviously much more problematic to deal with on an attack team for sure. This Adrenaline Rush looks very heavy hitting indeed, also adding quite a lot of buffs to your own team, 100% defense to everybody, massive survivability there. Obviously no heals, but you can rely on other characters for the heals. This character is going to stop you taking as much damage from any damage source. Anything that is damage related, deal damage or attack based, will be reduced in damage, and this is obviously the majority of the damage output from what attack teams can actually deliver. This obviously will affect Brutus as well, so he will take less damage, so it is nice for just for 100% defense buff against himself. The camouflage on top is just a nice little cherry on top, like I say. It's just to stop Brutus from taking any excess damage just for like AoE, or like if someone else had a line rush and they didn't target Brutus in that line, he would just escape that damage pretty much, which, like I say, it's quite nice. It's quite nice. So overall, the Adrenaline Rush is powerful. It's definitely the wrong type of bear hug, not the bear hug you want, but it's very good for taking down attack team characters who are going to have a lot of problems when it comes to the damage output from Brutus here. Now next up, we're going to look at Easter Brutus' signature move, and it is called Vigorous Slam. It has got an initial cooldown of turn 1, cooldown of 2 turns, number of uses unlimited. This fighter recovers from heal reduction and gets 100% heal reduction resistance for 2 turns. Deal 10% of this fighter's max HP as damage to all enemies, and 15% of this fighter's max HP as main damage to enemies in the front row and center positions. This is not based on him being on attack or defense. This is going to work either way. So there is maybe some viability from some cheesy attack teams with Easter Brutus. There are quite a lot of HP based characters out there right now. You just have to have some decent control in those teams. Now the first part obviously is just a heal reduction cleanse and then a heal reduction resistance. I like this. This is actually quite nice. Nothing too crazy. Just means that Brutus is generally going to get the heals. Can still get heal reduction afterwards because obviously it's 100% resistance and can obviously get reduced by 40% there. Dealing 10% of this fighter's max HP as damage to all enemies. If we had that 100,000 HP that we talked about, it's not going to be too crazy, but it could be like half the HP if they don't have any bonus HP of attack team characters, damage dealers. So it can be pretty problematic. But then it also does 15% of this fighter's max HP as main damage afterwards. And this is where the problem can be, where this could potentially one-shot 3 characters off the first turn, because it obviously is going to do 10% of this fighter's max HP as damage first, then afterwards it will do 15% main damage, and it's based on the character's HP. So that could be 10k plus 15k, making it 25k damage off of turn 1, and there are some attack team characters which are going to have a lot of problems with that. Okay, so this time around we have got a defense leader giving a HP bonus, And we are getting another HP bonus from Zachary's weapon, but there are no mods and not an upgraded weapon on Brutus, so I don't think getting 100k like he has here, 99.3, is going to be too difficult. I will just show you what this is going to be like. It's going to hit 3 characters. It's going to hit Danny, Ellen, and it's also going to hit Eva and Ghost. Now, that's going to be the main damage, but the actual 10% hit will hit everybody. The 10% hit comes in first, then the main damage comes in, and it obviously stacks. So they'll get 1 hit first, then they'll get the main damage. The animation is a bit slow, because I did test it out. There's the main hit, and then the main damage comes in and takes out the characters that did have maim on them. If they haven't got, obviously, the required HP to survive it, they're going to get taken out. 27,000 HP on Eva and Ghost has managed to keep her alive. But the characters there that had less than the 25k pretty much requirement, they're going to get taken out off of turn 1 in the front row. So now you've got to be very, very aware of who you put in the front row on your attack teams. Your leader is always going to be hit. And there's nothing you can do there. Now, going straight into the upgrades on this signature move, you can see at grade 3 it gets an upgrade where this fighter recovers from heal reduction and gets 100% heal reduction resistance for 2 turns. At grade 5, it gets an upgrade where it deals 15% of this fighter's max HP as main damage to enemies in the front row and center positions. The initial damage, where it does 10% of this fighter's max HP as damage to all enemies, is on there from the get-go. And then from Limit Break 2 onwards, we do have a -1 to starting cooldown, and I'd say that's quite important. Obviously, you want to get this off as early as possible in the fight, get a commanding position down on the attack team, and it's going to be very problematic. Honestly, off of turn 1, you could definitely put Brutus in a team with other problematic characters, and because of Brutus' specialist skill, it's going to be very hard to stop him from being able to do this. It's pretty much as simple as that. It's going to be extremely hard to stop him to be able to do this, because he has got Resilient 2, which means he's going to have good chance of resisting any control that comes his way. We'll look at Resilient 2 later on, but yeah, this is going to be very, very problematic. You're going to have characters maybe give out early Guardian Shields, although the Guardian Shields will get removed from the initial attack and stop the 10% damage. It won't block the main damage, but of course you could have main resist. You know, if you had a main resist mod, or a character that gave out main resist, that's where the potential survivability could come in. So very powerful signature move. Potential of taking out 3 characters on the first turn, one-shotting them. And considering I don't think you could necessarily one-shot Brutus with any attack character right now, I think that's kind of weird that a defense team character is just so overpowered when it comes to damage, and there's no attack team character, which is meant to be a damage dealer, that can actually do the same sort of thing. Kind of crazy, but that is the way it is. Brutus is going to hit extremely hard on his signature move, set up his adrenaline rush to hit extremely hard again. Now, of course, Easter Brutus is going to be an ultra token wheel character, so we are going to be giving away some ultra tokens. And if you want your chance to win, all you have to do is leave a comment down below, talk about Brutus, anything you want. Make sure you hit the like button as well, and that will enter you in the giveaway. I'll do the draw on my live stream in around the next 10 days, and I'll notify you by replying to your comment here on YouTube. So make sure you have notifications turned on so you receive that message. If you do not claim your prize, it will get re-rolled on a future live stream. Best of luck if you enter the giveaway, guys. Now back to the video. Now, checking out Brutus' mythic abilities is, of course, his passives. He has got strength because he is a tank, where he'll have 40% critical hit resistance. It is worth noting this will not stack with his resilient specialist skill, so he will still be able to be hit with critical hits, just not as often. Thick hide, when attacked by a damage roll enemy, reduce that damage by 80%. Now, I believe if you're hit with a deal damage, this should potentially bypass this reduction. But any attack-based characters, which is like 95% of damage dealers, as long as they've got the damage roll, will have their damage reduced by 80%, which is actually kind of crazy. The next one is Easter Snacks. When being targeted by a signature move, this fighter heals for 50% of their max HP for their next 2 turns. So any sort of targeting, And I don't even think it has to be direct targeting. As long as they're hit in any way by the signature move, they'll be healing for 50% for the next 2 turns. And this guy's going to have, like I say, upwards of 100k HP. And that's a lot of healing every single turn there. And the next one is Signature Sweetness. Reduce signature move damage taken by 70%. This could stack with Thick Hide. I'm going to try it out and see what's going to happen if I do a signature move with a damage roll character that is attack based. Is it going to hit for like 20 damage? Let's have a little look. Okay, so we're going to start the fight and we're going to see what kind of damage output we have on this this team. We have got 2 damage roll characters. Their damage is going to get reduced by quite a margin, but also we have Negan here with minus 50% attack as well, so it'll be interesting to see what happens here. There should be damage roll damage reduction plus signature move damage reduction plus minus 50% reduction. What's this going to do? Okay. 680%, sorry, 687 damage critical. Raven, 907 damage. She's not got any, like, the 50% negation on her damage. Okay, what about someone like Wanderer? He's not a damage roll, so he's not going to have that initial reduction, but he will have signature move reduction. 8k, okay. What about Danny? Again, same sort of issue. He's going to have signature move reduction, but not damage roll reduction. His damage is not too bad, but normally you'd expect him to completely blow up a character, kind of like what he did to the leader there. Got one shot by his AoE. This character's still on 50% of their HP, but if you haven't noticed, every single signature move is adding a massive heal to this character. Now, I might be able to take him out with Zachary here, but I'm not sure, because this should be reduced by 70%. So it might not do enough damage. Let's see. It is just about going to, but it only does 53k, rather than what would normally happen, which is like over 100k. Yeah, I mean, I had to do every single signature move on this character, unmodded, in a team by themselves, unguarded, with no defense buffs, which is definitely going to be a thing. If he has the defense buff on top of this from like the Soulfire weapon in a strong defense team, look at that damage on Raven and look at that damage on Negan. It's absolutely ridiculous, honestly. And you might have noticed with those damage numbers, there was the odd 0 that popped up as well. Well, I guess we're going to have to find out how that's happening when we look at the weapon a little later. I wonder what that could be. Now, if we look at the upgrades on the passives here, you can see at grade 1, the first half of Thick Hide comes in. When attacked by a damage roll enemy, reduce damage taken by 40%. At grade 2, we're going to have Strength Part 1, 20% critical hit resistance. At grade 3, Thick Hide 2 comes in. When attacked by a damage roll enemy, further reduce the damage taken by 40%, making it 80% total, which, like I say, is kind of crazy. Moving on to grade 4, we get the first half of Easter Snacks. When being targeted by a signature move, this fighter heals 20% of their max HP for their next 2 turns. And as you saw, it stacks with every single time they get hit with a signature move. At grade 5, we get the first half of Signature Sweetness. Reduce signature move damage taken by 40%. As we move on to the limit breaks, you can see at limit break 1, we have Strength 2 coming in, making it 20% critical hit resistance. At limit break 2, we get Easter Snacks 2 come in. When being targeted by a signature move, this fighter heals 30% of their max HP for their next 2 turns. And at limit break 3, Signature Sweetness 2 comes in. Reduce signature move damage taken by 30%, making it 70% total. So these passives are extremely strong, because where Easter Brutus was going to have some issues was always going to be with targeted damage, being hit hard. It's going to be very hard to do that, especially early on in the fight, because this is going to stop signature move damage and attack-based damage dealers getting their skills off. This is going to be a problem, like I say, especially considering that first turn signature move means that Brutus could potentially one-shot half your team straight away. You're going to have to either take Brutus out or control him, and it looks like either one of those two things are going to be very hard. The damage is going to be massively reduced by all of his passives, and the chance to control him is going to be massively reduced because of his specialist skill. Now, we do have a specialist skill, and it is called Resilient 2. This character has a 60% resistance against all status effects. This stacks with all other resistances, which is an additive. This specialist skill is immune to the control roll passive. I have gone over this in further detail. If you want to go check that out, there is a link in the top right hand corner where I actually go over how this works in very high detail. But basically this means this character will always have 60% resistance against all the status effects unless they are normalized, regardless of who attacks them. But if they have bonuses from like a mod where it gets plus 40% to go up to 100%, then only control roll characters can reduce that back down to the normal 60% from the specialist skill. Everyone else will not be able to hit any sort of control there. So that is where there is a lot of problems potentially coming in. Hard to control this character. Hard to do damage against it. That signature move going off turn 1 looks more and more likely every single moment. Now, Easter Brutus, of course, has an attached weapon, and it is Easter Brutus Guarding Claws. It has got 45% base HP, 40% defense, improved absolute defense plus slow. When being attacked, a 60% chance to reduce damage to 0 and apply a 20% slow to the attacker for their next turn. And in the last slot, it has improved debuff heal. Heal 20% at the start of each turn for each debuff on this fighter. So first off, the stats are fine. You might want to raise the HP to 55%, then decide what you're going to do with the rest of the weapon. If you want to go with a different slot in, let's say, the 4th slot, you could increase the defense by 5% instead. If you wanted to keep that 4th slot, it's up to you. Now, absolute defense is obviously great. It means less chance to hit even more targeted damage on attack-based stuff. It isn't just that potentially he has the chance to reduce it by massive percentages. He actually has the chance to reduce it to 0. That's the way absolute defense works. The 4th slot is kind of strange, but you could see it as quite good as like a saving grace, because while you're less likely to put a negative effect on Brutus, if any negative effects are on him, he's going to heal. So you could, like I say, you could see it as a bonus because of that. It is actually a pretty big heal as well, 20% for each negative effect. This does mean if he had like a 2-turn infection of 40% or lower, he'd be able to heal that guaranteed if it was a 2-turn 40% infection, which is actually pretty big. Also, just as an added bonus, the Easter Brutus Guarding Claws look pretty hilarious as they are like seemingly smashing or ripping in half an Easter egg, which is a bit overkill maybe, I don't know. So that is the first look at Gold Mythic Easter Brutus, and like I said, he is going to be coming to the game as an Ultra Token World character and looks very, very, very powerful as a defense team character. Maybe some slight viability on attack in certain situations. Would have to have a very certain team. I think if we want to have a HP based attack team, which can be possible with the characters we got, I think we need a very specific leader for that attack team, and I don't think that leader exists. There has to be a HP based attack team leader like created that has control to help like Zachary, Pizza Boy, Glenn, Easter Brutus, and like Zhang. Those characters potentially could be quite a fun team to use. But on a defense team, Easter Brutus is mental. Even if he doesn't have crazy high HP, which you probably just would want to do anyway, he's still going to be doing a lot of damage indeed. I've already kind of thought of some kind of interesting ideas when it comes to a potential defense team. I'll let you know how that goes. But yeah, Brutus, like I say, looks very strong indeed. Do let me know your thoughts of Brutus in the comments down below. Don't forget, if you do want to check out how Resilient 2 works, there is a link in my description that should take you to my Resilient 2 guide. But that is the end of my video, guys. I want to thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.